Hey everyone, I thought I'd talk a little bit about how to generate power when fencing. When a boxer is punching, he doesn't just punch with his arms like this. He uses his entire body, getting power from the hips and from the foot, and sometimes also stepping into the punch in order to get as much energy into the target as possible. And the same is true for fencing. When we're cutting, especially if we're not going from here, but we have a limited area that we can cut from, like this, from a bind for example, we need to create more energy and we can't just do this. Instead, we'll make a step or we'll make a rotation with our hips and on our feet in order to create more energy that we can put into the target. Let me show you how it works. Right, so as I'm cutting from above, I'm falling down, I'm sitting down in my cut. As I'm cutting from below, I'm standing up. Right, same from the other side. From above, sitting down. From below, standing up. This naturally uses the movement of the body to get more force and more energy into the target. I also mentioned turning on your feet, on the balls of your feet. And especially if you're cutting a horizontal strike, this is quite useful, right? So as I'm cutting a Rotational, I'm not just doing this, I'm actually turning my entire hips and I'm turning on the balls of my feet to go like this. And this creates much more energy that goes into the target. Same from the other side. So those are a couple of ways of creating energy. When you're working the pel, keep this in mind. So don't just stand like this and cut with the arms. It's actually quite difficult to cut without using any body motion. All right, so if I'm trying to stand still and just cut with my arms, it'll be very weak. I'm sure you can see that I'm actually moving my shoulders a little bit. But what I really want you to do is get this into a natural part of your routine as you're working the pel. As you're standing up, rotating, sitting down, as you're cutting from above. This will make it natural for you to create a lot of force from when you only have a little distance from which your sword can travel. For example, you've cut the other person's sword down and you're cutting through, or as you're cutting from a bind here, going into a switch, putting that one and even rotating fully around, stepping with your foot behind like this in order to get out of the way, making it into a tactical footstep as well as a way of creating energy. All right. So also have a quite fun exercise that I do to train this. What you want to do when you're cutting like this is to focus on the body motion and get rid of the arms a little bit, right? Just for training purposes. So what I do is the dinosaur exercise, because you look a little bit like a T-Rex when you do it. And you have to imagine that your elbows are actually attached to the sides of your body like this. So you cannot use your shoulders and upper arms. You can only use your forearms and your body rotation as you're doing techniques. Right, so it looks something like this. The switch is the hardest one. So you might disconnect a little bit. It's a very useful way of training actually, because it lets you think about your feet and about how you're using your body, how you're creating a rotation in order to hit that pel as hard as possible. You can also do it as pair drills, of course, and the other one can point out when you're letting go of your sides with your elbows and give you feedback on which ones were more powerful in their strikes. All right, so another thing, as I said, is stepping. And that is really important. So if you start off like this, and standing still on your feet and just turning, as you can see, I'm I'm turning on my feet as I'm cutting. What you can also do is stepping. Instead of just doing this, I'm doing this. So I'm stepping in that direction as I'm cutting from that direction, turning and stepping in the other direction. And the same from above. Sitting down and turning and stepping in this direction, and from the other side. So that's a very useful exercise. Of course, then when you've done that and you're comfortable with engaging your core and your feet as you're cutting, you just let loose your arms and you're cutting just as you would normally, but you try to get that rotation in as well. Okay, I hope you find that useful. Thank you very much.